Hi, Dan Goodstein here with IRPA AI. Welcome to the Executive Interview Series. Today, we're talking about customer experience transformation with Lonnie Johnston. He's the Global Customer Success Leader at NICE Systems. Lonnie, thanks for joining us. And before we jump in, can you share a little bit about your background and what you do at NICE?
Yeah, I have been at NICE for about 10 years, coming up on 10 years. I've been involved with automation for the last 5 years, but helping customers, either myself adopting new technology or helping customers adopt technology on a global basis, for about 20 years now. So I have a good idea of the challenges, that customers are going to run into, as well as how to overcome them. So.
Yeah, great, great. So let's kind of start with kind of where we are as an industry. I think many people have realized, especially over the last year, that they need to change the way their customer interactions work, right? So are there a few kind of high level examples you can share of kind of what are some of the problems that you typically see, and are there kind of typical solutions that are available to companies right now?
Yeah, I mean, when they customers, in terms of when they think about improving customer interactions, yeah, companies probably are running into the same problems they run into for a while. I would say, things like high attrition, bad desktop tools, not enough staff to handle the workload. The challenges aren't necessarily new, but I think when you look at what's different, is the challenges of COVID, work from home agents, the budget challenges of having less revenue has really increased the urgency to address these issues. And so COVID has definitely increased the adoption of digital channels, trying to do more self-service, supporting work from home agents. And so we definitely see that shift towards trying to improve the customer experience, and that always being at the forefront. But I think where companies are really getting to now is they're starting to understand that improve that customer experience, you also have to improve the agent experience. And so part of the investment is trying to simplify the desktop, simplify those processes that the agents are doing. And so if you can make the agent's role easier, then that's just going to influence everything else. It's going to change your hiring profile, so forth, and it really changes the game. And so that's really the shift that we're seeing.
So my sense is attended automation plays a big role in much of this, yes. But I'm curious as to do you see that more as a people replacement, or my sense is you probably see it more as an augmentation. But are there other benefits?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you're right. It's not about people replacement, because almost all service centers, they just don't have enough staff to handle the workload. That's the number one complaint we hear. And so it's not about replacing the people. It's about, but it is about driving efficiency. I mean, you want to increase the throughput of the center, and that's where everyone starts with automation, and that makes sense because if you can reduce the handling time to do a work item, that's probably what's going to justify most of the investment for automation development. But that focus of how that is achieved, I think people tend to think a lot of, uh, I want to virtualize what humans do and push that to a robot. And with attended automation, that works differently, right? So instead, the idea is to take what's bad about human work. It's too many steps. It's too much manual work. It's things like data entry or data lookups, dealing with clunky systems, or it's too hard to get to data. Taking and removing these barriers to doing for humans to do their jobs well, that's what's a great fit for attended automation. And that's what we see, that's driving a lot of the benefit.
Yeah, and I imagine, one of the many challenges for a lot of these contact centers is around staffing and training, right? So how does attended automation play into easing that pain a little bit?
Oh, you're right. I mean, seasonality, scaling of new agents, or simply, like I mentioned earlier, the dealing with agent attrition. When you combine these with bad desktop tools, it creates a huge challenge to improving the customer experience. So again, we see everybody wants to improve this customer experience, but you've got the cycling of turnover around your agents, and they're trying to overcome these bad desktop tools. It's just it's too much to be able to drive those improvements. And so attended automation simplifies the desktop. It creates a new user interface, which doesn't just automate portions of the task, but it can also guide the agent through the process. So, give you an example, we typically see a lot of high anxiety for newer agents when they're going through initial training. And they hit what most people call like a learning lab, where they first start to take calls, or they're starting to process work, and deal directly with customers. Agent guidance is a game changer here in terms of moving the agent, step by step through the process. And so it just eliminates that steep learning curve that you typically would see associated with a service process. So new agents think of it as a lifeline. They love it. Adoption is not an issue on something like that. And companies love it as well, because now they've got a process that's consistently followed right out of the chute. And so it's a win in multiple ways, both for the agent as well as for the business.
Is customer experience transformation, is it really just about reducing handling times though, or so what are some of the other things that you guys are doing?
Well, look, efficiency is a big driver, no doubt, and but there are other benefits as well. Error reduction is a big one. We can often quantify the cost of an error, and the payback can be just huge. So companies will look at this like, look, how do we reduce down needless truck rolls to a customer address? Those are huge costs with that. Some of it can just be trying to avoid a bad customer experience. You can think of as an error. So I don't want to have to send my customer to a store to get this resolved. They're trying to get it resolved with the phone or to a branch. Some of it's about avoiding data entry errors, which they're costly to identify, they're costly to correct. And so the error reduction, huge cost savings associated with that. And other areas in compliance and adherence to a process.
Yeah.
And, you know, and this is different than the typical way you might think of it, like a quality assurance in a service center, that we all know, where attended automation can look at why the process or the system has poor compliance, why we're not following the process, and then simplifies and improve that process. And let me give you an example. So, say you want to improve the customer experience by offering payment reliefs to people that have been impacted by storms in the South. And so many companies do this type of stuff, and but the problem is oftentimes it's very difficult to know if a customer is impacted. We had one customer of ours that they actually required agents to go through an Excel lookup of zip codes to know if a customer is impacted. And so the agents just didn't do it. It was too hard. It took too much time. They are busy people and they just don't have time to do this. And so attended automation can do the lookup, notify the agent in seconds. And now all of a sudden you're providing this payment relief, you're providing this customer experience you want. But again, look how we did this here. We improved the agent experience and made it easy, and we're also improving the customer experience. And so we see how the two are tied. And so, yes, it's compliance, but it's not I'm watching you over the shoulder, you better watch it, then, you do your process the right way. We've just made it easier to do things the right way. And that's the type of compliance we can get with attended automation.
Yeah, great example. Great example. Lonnie, a lot of my members, when I speak to them, they've automated mostly the back office and the finance functions, right? And I'm curious, as they think about attended automation, where do you recommend that they get started? Because so many of those folks, really started picking a process just based on gut feel or something that they
Gut
spend a lot
feel.
of their personal time on, right? So,
Interview the center director and ask them, what do you want to automate?
right.
Yeah, it no. So getting started is the trickiest question, I think, for most people, and it's the most critical thing for making sure that your program is going to be successful. And the gut feeling method you mentioned tends to lead to the most complex processes getting built. And so, yes, they have a lot of benefit, but oftentimes the level of effort associated with that, you're just not starting at that low hanging fruit category. This is high hanging. where you need a ladder, a big ladder, oftentimes in order to go get it. And so what we recommend is you want that project selection to be all about data and let data drive the process. So with NICE, we have tools that assist with this. We have Automation Finder. And so that can give you, what that means is it will give you the number of times a sequence or process happens and how long it takes. And so the benefit then becomes very clear, and it's not just a guess, because you're able to quickly understand exactly what you're going to get in terms of when you build this automation. And so when you combine that with a level of effort assessment on those sequences or processes, now you've kind of gone this, looked at your matrix here in terms of what's going to give me the highest benefit for the lowest effort right out of the chute. And so the balance you're trying to achieve is you want to solve something that is an important win for the business that you're delivering on, but you want to be able to put in the least amount of effort in order to get that so that you can get a quick win on it. And that's really, I think, by making that a data-driven decision, by going through and doing the assessments, that can help you really start in the right spot. That's going to get you really maximize your effort.
Yep. Yep. So now you've figured out where to start, and you're in this process, and you mentioned a couple times this agent experience. Is that the primary thing that you guys push on from a change management standpoint, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, that it's not about, like you said. I think that you get sort of a bad rap with automation of this is just about taking people out, and you're just trying to eliminate jobs. But the focus is around improving the agent experience. And so when it comes to adoption around the change management around the tools, if you are improving the agent experience, you're making their lives easier. This is work they don't want to be doing
Right.
oftentimes, or it's just too difficult to do their job. And so when you take that through that lens, attended automation drives a lot of benefits, in terms of, like we said, error reduction, compliance, certainly the efficiency is all there. But ultimately, that big goal of I want a better customer experience is delivered by starting with the agent and keeping
Yep.
them at the forefront.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big believer, especially right now, that CX should really be a differentiator for companies, as well as a revenue generator, right?
Yeah.
On the revenue side, is this a fantasy, or is this really possible?
It's not fancy. I mean, it's happening today. You probably see it. If you call in, and we all kind of take notes. When you're in the industry of how agents are doing, and it's
Yeah.
getting better and better. The most innovative companies have shifted their thinking from uh, service centers being a cost center and realizing that every customer interaction is something that can be maximized, and it can be maximized not just for revenue, but it can be maximized for the influence it has on your brand. And so they're investing more and more in these channels, not just in terms of digitalization and so forth, but around improving that customer experience. And so when it's done well, you can position things like next best action. And certainly, this can be done systematically with attended automation. But what that's going to do is it's going to increase sales, but it's also just going to change the customer experience. And so you gave examples, what the end game that people are trying to get to might be like a wireless company trying to increase accessory sales, or banks trying to have their wealth advisor position additional products. But the customer is going to call in initially for an issue around some of their other products. But if you can fix that issue and then position other products in a way that's a win also for the customer, then the best companies really make this feel seamless to the customer, right?
Right.
And so, how they're doing this, there's a great deal of innovation happening here, because you see companies combining big data with artificial intelligence and now the attendant automation to drive that action with the agent. And it's guiding those actions to agents to the best actions to either resolve the issues, position products in a way that solves the issue. And ultimately, that's going to drive loyalty, better customer experience, and they see the payback of that. So huge growth area, and I think it's a place where you're just going to see more and more innovation as those tools get better and better.
I hope so. We've all had these experiences that were less than favorable experiences. Like I said, especially in the last year and a half, I think in particular around some of the things you mentioned, right? Beyond seasonality, but just changes in demand and things like that. So hopefully we get to a point where these are better experiences. Lonnie, before we jump, any final advice for someone watching who wants to get started with this? Obviously, Nice provides these services. Maybe you can give us a little bit of a roadmap for them on take the next step.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly we talked about how to select a process, so forth. When you're evaluating vendors, you know, Nice has been doing attended automation really for the better part of 10 years. And we have some of the largest customers in this. And so when you look at being able to scale attended automation, there's a lot of people that say that they do it, but they sort of take unattended and kind of force it down an attended path. And Nice is really a native to attended automation. We've got our largest customer has 45,000 agents. And so just the ability to scale and so forth. So you want to look at things like that in terms of that a vendor has rich experience, in doing attended automation that they can scale. And so that's really where Nice is unique. We've got an automation finder that certainly helps with that aspect. And then, being able to help you build a center of excellence and build and maintain the robots is a vital component of that as well. And so I think for a lot of people, that's probably where you start is that evaluation. And that would be some keys that I would look at. Certainly then the project selection and so forth is the item. And then having and managing the adoption is something as well. Because I think we can tend to get very focused on the development and the process and trying to focus so much on I'm trying to get these robots out the door, so forth. And then you leave the adoption sort of unmanaged and you don't really then maximize the benefits that you're able to see.
Makes sense.
That's what I would
Lonnie,
leave with everybody with. Yeah.
thank you so much. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time today. Thanks.
Bye now.